What's up, Inkie peeps? It's Adele from Inkie Quill, and as we are nearing closer to Christmas, I thought I would do a special edition of Inspiration from a Picture Book and look at this beautiful, beautiful Christmas book that belonged to my mum. She gave it to me when I was a little girl, and it was her favourite book, and I absolutely love it. So it's The Night Before Christmas and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and the illustrations are just gorgeous. My mum was born in 1960, and I think this book is from the early 60s, and it's just beautiful. Now, I don't have a lot of vintage goodies, a lot of vintagey style supplies, so I'm taking inspiration from a lot of the patterns and the toys that are included in this book as well. This was my favorite page when I was little, and I would look at all of the different toys, and then there's another one towards the back of the book, this one here. That was really my favorite, with the rocking horse and the doll. My mum said that she used to also just drool over those two pages when she was younger. So it's nostalgic to pull out this book. I haven't looked at it for probably a good 10 years or so, and when I was planning some Christmassy videos without them being December daily themed, I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I remembered this book and thought it would be perfect. Now, obviously, this video is before Christmas, so I haven't got any Christmas photos from this year. As I'm recording the voiceover for this, Archie hasn't had his Santa photos yet either. And so I dived into my childhood album and pulled out a couple of photos, and I'm glad I did, because I thought it would be nice, because I'm using my mum's book as inspiration to do some photos with mum. So we would always take photos in front of the tree, but here's another reason why we need to think of the people in our photos. My dad was always the one taking the photos, and he is not in any Christmas photos that I could find with me in this album. There's a couple where he's sitting at the table, and it's just like a table shot of my whole family, but there's none just with him and I. So get out from behind that camera if you're taking the photos, and make sure that you get someone to take some photos of you too. So I was going through my junk journal and trying to figure out what page I wanted to do, and I was going to do this page, but then I realized I'd be going over the top of that Hello Lovely, and I don't know why. I saw it there, but I don't know why I didn't think of doing it on the back of that page until then. So I had to cover it up a little bit, because that embossing video that we did quite a few months ago now, the embossing went through the page, and it created a really heavy shadow that, of course, the text was backwards, so it didn't make sense. And so I just grabbed some red Dilutions paint and slapped that over the top, just to act as a bit of a background. I could have just stuck a piece of pattern paper over the top of it, but I wanted to get a little bit creative, and there are these swirly patterns on the front and end pages of the book, and also throughout the book and some of the illustrations. So I grabbed this stencil from my stash. It's a very thin and not good quality stencil. I think it's from Riot Art and Craft here in Australia, and it's so thin. It's a nightmare to clean, which is why I don't bother cleaning it, and it's also a nightmare for texture paste, because the texture paste just slides everywhere. So I usually only use it with a little bit of black or white paint. And I wanted to do, of course, the problem that I often find with Dilutions paints is that they take on if you put white over the top of another Dilutions paint, it doesn't go white. It takes on some of the color from the layer beneath it. And so I knew that if I was doing this technique with this stencil, I didn't expect it to be completely opaque. I knew it would be a little bit of a pinkish tone, but I was okay with that. And so now I decided to outline some of the stencil-y bits with a black pen. I just felt like it was a little too wishy-washy, I guess is the best word to describe it. It wasn't popping as much as I would have hoped, and so I'm just really roughly going through, figuring out where my photos are going so I don't have to draw where the photos are roughly. And then I'm going to go through and just add a little bit of black detail, and I really think it makes that side of the page pop in the end. So with my photos, I scanned those, actually no, I photocopied them from just normal non-digital photos. What do you call normal photos before digital cameras? Are they analog photos? Like digital analog? I don't know. Physical photos. The word that I'm trying to use is gone from my vocabulary, but I just photocopied them, and they're not the best quality. I think it would have been a lot better if I'd scanned them and then printed them from a scanned copy. I do want to go through and digitize all my childhood photos, which is going to be a little bit of an epic effort, and I'm very tempted. I know there are some companies that you can give them a box of photos and they digitize it for you. I'm very, very tempted to do that because you guys know how much I hate printing photos, and scanning photos I put in the same category. So I'll keep you updated next year on how that goes. I'm going through this gorgeous little pack. A subscriber called Lisa sent me all these beautiful vintage goodies, and there was so many bunnies, and I can't wait to use them. I am hoarding some of them for Archie's first year album, which I have half printed and almost ready to start. But I'm just going through and seeing if any of the images really jumped out at me to use on this page, and I ended up using some of those little board game, I was going to say card and game at the same time, card and game pieces for this right hand side of the page. And I felt like that kind of went with the, you know, the night before Christmas there were all these different toy pages in it, and I just felt like it matched it quite well. So this piece of washi was on the back of one of the little plastic bags of goodies that she sent. Look at all of this. I'm drooling. Lisa, if you're a patron, thank you so very much for sending these. You have spoilt me. And then, I was going to do this mummy and this little baby bunny because I thought it was like myself and my mum, but it was too big for this particular page, and I think I'm actually going to save that for an art journal or a scrapbook layout, instead. So I'm going to try and get this Christmas. I've talked before about how my mum likes to dodge photos. I'm going to try on Christmas Day to get a photo of her and Archie and I, and if I can, I'll use one of those bunny pages on that layout. So next up, there was a page in the Rudolph section of the book that had this the sleigh flying over a whole lot of houses. And as I've said before, I'm a sucker for little houses and maps, and I love this paper. It's from an older crepe paper collection, and I love this paper so much, but I do struggle with using it as a whole because it is very, very busy. I actually have a video coming up, I think it's sometime in January, using some busy background scrapbook papers to make some journaling cards out of. And this would be the type of paper that I would probably save for that. Also, big thank you if you are a patron as well. Brooke sent me a whole lot of goodies that I'm using, these papers and some other bits and pieces that she sent. Thank you for anyone who does send things along to me. You don't have to, but thank you so very much. I love them. I love reading your letters and your postcards. I want to do another Happy Mail session very soon and put them all into my Happy Mail binder, because I do keep each and every letter that you guys send. And so I'm just going through and I was going to try and squeeze in a tag, and I ended up settling for this one and the smaller version of that playing card. And that's the great thing. I love having things pre-made, like this tag and DIY embellishments. It just makes the actual creating of a page come together so much quicker and easier, and I don't have to make as many big decision making processes during making the thing. So I stuck that down, and although this spread does end up quite busy. I love it. I love the way that it gives a festive vibe without using any specifically Christmas supplies. I'm still waiting. I ordered some Christmas goodies from scrapbook.com, and the tracking, I had a look at the tracking because I'm really hoping it arrives before Christmas Day because I want to use them in my Christmas Day video, and time's ticking. But the package has been in transit in Sydney, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from me, for about 12 days now. So I'm really hoping that, I know Christmas, parcels and delivery in Australia is shocking at its best, but I know that it gets busier around this time of year, and I'm really hoping that it hurries up and comes to me soon, so that I can have a play with some of them. I'm doing some stamping, and I was a little bit silly because, as you can see, this junk journal is getting quite chunky, and it's quite difficult to stamp on it because the other side of this page is lumpy and bumpy. So the stamps didn't come out super clearly, but they came out clear enough that I could make them work. So I'm using this little camera from a Shamel, I think that's how you say it, Shamel sticker book, as well as a few little leafy fronds. And I think that I associate that green, it's a green that I struggle with, but I associate that green with Christmas because it's a very Christmas tree green. And so I thought by using those fronds I could sneak them in and make them work. I then grabbed my tiny word strips from the November Inkie printables over here on Patreon, and I'm just grabbing a couple of the tiny words and sticking them down in this bottom corner down here. And I've got this white space here. I felt like I needed some journaling just to balance the blockiness of the items on this page, because you've got the photos are obviously very blocky, and I'm sorry about the glare on that photo because my junk journal is so full and chunky. This page is at a 45-degree angle, so there's no way for me to avoid that glare. But the photos are blocky, the tag is blocky, and the little bunnies are also a rectangular shape, which makes them blocky. And I felt like just by adding that tiny bit of journaling, it just kind of relaxed the blockiness a little bit. And if you're ever finding that your page doesn't look cohesive, have a look for what shape might be missing, and if your page is maybe too many curves, you might add some tiny word strips or something a bit more rectangular, and vice versa. Adding some Heidi shine, and my page is all done. So I encourage you, grab your favorite picture book from your childhood or currently a picture book that you like, and see if you can get some inspiration from it, whether it's the colors, the topic, the shapes, the style, the placement of the illustrations and the text, whatever can give you a bit of mojo to finish off a page or a layout. Jump on it and embrace it. All right, guys, have a lovely few days, and I'll see you on Christmas. Bye.